You ready to start? Awesome. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the September meeting of the Hudson River Park Advisory Council. I'm Susan Kent. I'm the second vice chair, and I'm subbing in tonight for Tammy Meltzer, our chair, who could not be with us. So, and again, I'm reminding everyone, please sign in if you haven't on the attendance form. First item in our housekeeping is the draft minutes from the June meeting. Changes, edits, whatever.
Whatever, green.
Yeah. Green. I thought I was loud. Now I'm even louder. If not, I will take a motion to approve those minutes.
Seconded.
I got a second before a first, but that's okay. I'll take it. I'll take it.
Motion to approve.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Our first item on the agenda is the Hudson Tunnel Project. We have a presentation. You have a microphone, and whenever you're ready. Just green.
I have to keep it. Okay. Hi. Thank you so much. I want to thank Susan for being here. I want to thank all of you for being here. Tammy for all the engagement that we've had this week and to make sure that we could be here today. My name is Rebecca Zach. I am the Senior Director of Government and Community Affairs at the Gateway Development Commission. We have a few members of the team here to present to you today, and I just want to thank you for all your time. Next slide. So here's our agenda. I'm going to go over the first, I'm going to do an overview of engagement to date. We're going to talk about the marine temporary structures that are planned for in the park, the bikeway and walkway relocation plans, the draft 12th Avenue lane shifts, and then the timeline for engagement with key stakeholders. Engagement to date. So we just want to provide a snapshot of some the meetings that we've taken place since last June of 2024, specific to waterside and landside work in Hudson River Park. In June of 2024, we presented to the Waterfront Parks and Environmental Committee as part of the 4F process that is federally mandated. And then CB4 submitted a comment letter as part of that process. Then we came back because there were additional changes in April of this year. CB4 submitted their letter in May of 25. And then in June, we met with CB4 leadership to discuss outreach and engagement option, also community benefits. And what we're expecting this from CB4 is to submit a list of things they want us to run down and what are some possible community benefits that we can provide as part of this project. Next slide. This provides a nice snapshot of a lot of the work that we're doing, and we do talk about New Jersey here a little bit, so I hope that's okay with everybody. But just moving west to east, we are about to wrap up what is called the Tunnelly Avenue Bridge Utility project by the end of this year. Then moving down a little bit, you have the Palisades Tunnel contract, which will be boring through the Palisades Rock, going from North Bergen to Weehawken. That will eventually connect into the river and then into Manhattan Tunnel. Move down a little bit further west, you have the Hudson County Shaft that's being built in Weehawken. And I'm sure most of you have seen this in the water, the Hudson River Ground Stabilization Project. You have a cofferdam that is out there right now. That project is to strengthen the soil in the Hudson River. I'm sure others, if you've attended past meetings of ours before, we have described it's called we call it chocolate pudding. We need to strengthen the soil there because that's the consistency of what's in the river. And then coming through, what we're most focused on here tonight is the Manhattan Tunnel project, which was awarded earlier this year. It's a little bit less than, I think, a $1.7 billion contract. In total, we have 5 contracts that are active right now. I don't want to forget about Hudson Yards concrete casing. Apologies. That is happening. If you're looking at the High Line from West 30th Street going down, you can look right into the concrete casing that they're building right now. And that is expected to be done in November of 26. And then we get to the Manhattan Tunnel project. This is a snapshot of the footprint of our work specific to Manhattan. That you can see the Hudson River ground stabilization there, the white box. Moving further, there's our footprint in the park by the heliport across 12th Avenue into block 675. And then we're connecting finally into Penn Station. We have done an enormous amount of engagement with Hudson River Park Trust. Robert can attest to that. He probably talks to me more than some other people that he works with, and I apologize for that. That's going to continue for a long time, but they are truly one of our most important stakeholders, and I honestly could not thank them enough for all the work that they do with us on a weekly and daily basis, and they've been doing it for years, during the draft EIS stage, and their guidance and feedback about the use of their park and the expectations of everyone who uses the park has been invaluable. And we continue to do that. So in April of 2025, we want to talk about some of the key modifications that from that time to here. We're talking about ground stabilization in Hudson River Park across 12th Avenue. That's a modification. Stabilization at the bulkhead, a longer duration of work for this in the park, and a modified construction footprint. This is what we presented in April of 2025, which is showing, I think, some of the more intense, I think this was the most intense scenario that we could come up with. The pedestrian bike path pushed all the way to the edge of the park, the southbound and route lane changes happening there on 12th Avenue. So in April of 2025, we presented a 12-foot wide pedestrian walkway and 15-foot wide bikeway, and we had talked about the 12th Avenue lanes sequentially shifting into the park. And then when we were talking about the barges, we had talked about a platform or something going over it. And today we're going to be giving you much more details about what we are calling a marine temporary structure will look like over the bulkhead. And I'm going to hand it over to Guy Sheba, who is working on our project right now, to describe more about the marine temporary structures. Thank you, Guy.
Rebecca. Hello, everyone. My name is Guy Sheba. I'm with Delve Underground. I'm the design engineering manager for the design from the design build contractor. So from the design builder team, I need to keep it up in front of
You
me.
need to keep it close so everyone can hear you.
Okay,
You'll hear
I'll
it.
try to do a better job. No, you are doing it great, Rebecca.
Yeah.
You're doing it great. So, and I'm going to present to you guys today the marine temporary structures here. Now I'm doing it okay. This is the footprint of the Manhattan Tunnel project. You can see the shaft in green. The areas in orange are where we're going to do another form of ground improvement. The area in cyan is ground freezing. And in black in the background over the Hudson River, you can see the marine temporary structure. The marine temporary structure is a steel structure, steel frame, that's going to be there for the duration of the project in order to enable us to do works over water for grouting, stabilizing the bulkhead, and then in turn freezing, creating a big giant ice cube in order for the tunnels to tunnel safely through. From either side of the marine temporary structure, you can see lightly two barges. We'll see it better in the next slide. But those barges will be there for the purpose of the chiller equipment. There are chillers there that need to chiller platforms. Correct. They will be there for the duration of the project in order to house the chillers, while allowing us to still maintain, if needed, the drill rigs that we'll see in the next couple of slides over the marine temporary structure itself. The timeline construction will start as early as Q25, and it will keep going anticipated up until Q of 2028. For the safety, there's a lot of coordination going on, led by GDC. Emma, do you want to? I'll keep going, right? The contractor and GDC are coordinating with the U.S. Coast Guard, the Army Corps of Engineers, HRPT, as you heard. How you doing, Robert? As well as other DEC and all the entities that you see here in order to get the permits and everything we need to perform the work. Next slide. Awesome, thank you. So this is a better footprint that you can see the marine temporary structure and the two chiller platforms on either side. Please take into consideration that dimensions are approximate. It depends on what will be in the inventory at the time. In the red polygon, you can see the area in which we're affecting the works on land. And all of this will be done in order to facilitate the works to safely tunnel under. Next slide. Awesome. So this is a nice visualization that you can see the dolphins, as we call them, for the main rail bridge. On the rail bridge on either side, we have a movable bridge spanning across from the bulkhead into the water, into the rail beam. And those are movable platforms in order to, as you can see, the drill rig over there standing in small, I don't know if you can see it sticking up, approximately 25 feet sticking up. And that will be facilitated in order to drill all the pipes, all the vertical pipes that will circulate the brine in order to freeze first the grout and then the brine in order to freeze the ground under. Chiller platforms on either side with gangways stretching from them in order to span all the equipment and all the pipes that are required for purposes of the works. I think I'll put a dot there and open it up for any questions, or do you want to first take it? Is that okay? Or should we keep going?
Why don't you keep going, and then we'll take questions from everyone at the
Awesome.
end. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Emma Solar. I'm a Manhattan Community Coordinator for GDC. And we know that it's really important for a lot of you guys in this room to understand what's happening in the water because you have businesses or nonprofits or other operations that use the water every single day. So that's why we're here to talk to you about the marine temporary structures in particular. We have already been doing, as sort of was referenced, construction in the water as part of our cofferdam near Pier 66. And as part of that, we've been doing a lot of messaging to the public. We send out regular boater safety alerts. I think possibly all of you are on that mailing list, as Robert let me know you guys would like to be included. So that's cool. We also update the Coast Guard notice to mariners. We're working with the Army Corps and Coast Guard about various regulations. There's also going to be lighting installed on these structures. So we're very cognizant that boater safety is really important, especially in this area of the Hudson River, which is like a really complex and dynamic area of the river. And for helicopters too. Yes. And yeah, we've also been engaging really closely in particular with Hudson River Community Sailing because they are at Pier 66, which is quite close to our construction site, and coordinating with ferry and commercial operators to ensure that they adhere to different safety requirements, staying away from our operations and being cognizant also of other recreational boaters in the area. So yeah, we're going to keep doing all of those things and obviously reach out to us if you have any questions about boater safety or any requests or whatnot. We're always happy to meet and chat. And I'm going to hand it over to Andy Mankey, who's on the phone.
Do we want to take any questions on that marine temporary structure, or do we want to jump into the bike and walkway path?
We're going to keep going and then do questions
Cool.
later.
We'll keep rolling. All right. Sorry, everybody, I couldn't join you in person tonight, but appreciate you guys having us. I am Andy Mankey. I'm with Delve Underground. I'm the civil engineer on the project, and I'm intimately involved in kind of some of the work that we're going to go over in the next few slides. So the first bit of slides that we're going to focus on are the bikeway and walkway that parallel and kind of intermix with the park. And then the second deck will be associated with the modifications we're going to do in 12th Avenue. So next slide. So in terms of the bike lane and ped path impacts, they're kind of broken up into 3 stages. You can see the durations that we're showing right now. Stage 1, as we'll get into more detail, is a pretty light impact. It actually doesn't impact the peds and bikes much at all. Stage 2 is kind of where you're going to see a shift of that pathway, and it's for what we tried to get it down to like a 3-4 month duration there. And then stage 3 is going to be kind of a longer term setup, but we'll get into the details of those as we get into the next few slides. In addition, we've had a lot of internal coordination. As you've heard already, HRPT has been a main partner in a lot of this, as well as the DOTs and Amtrak and GDC as well. So one thing that did come up yesterday was trees. So it's bulleted there. There are some trees that are impacted with some of this work, but more mainly with the roadway work. And we are replacing all those trees at the conclusion of the project. So next slide. So this is an overview of stage one. This is anticipated to be started in the next month or so and run through the end of the year. As you can see in yellow is the existing ped bike movements, and those ped bike movements aren't going to be modified during this time. So the bike lanes and ped lanes will remain the same. The one slight modification is at the south there. You can see in the blue work zone, we're going to expand the work zone a little bit and place a dry house, which is for the contractors, workers to be able to change and come to and from the site. And as you know, trying to build a large infrastructure project in a dense urban environment like Manhattan, staging area is very limited. So this is just basically staging area. So it's an adjustment of the fence line, kind of take a little bit more area. There's the artwork and the trees in that area will get removed for this period of time. And the dry house will be in there. But in general, the truck logistics are shown on the screen as well in green. The trucks will come in from the north. They'll exit from the south at all times. When trucks are coming into and out of the blue work zone, they'll have flaggers and signage and the appropriate protections in place to make sure things are going smoothly, just like they do right now. And that's in general stage one. I can keep rolling or we can take questions.
Keep rolling.
All right, I'm rolling. All right, so stage two. This is, like I said, at the end of the year. Q1 is kind of where we anticipate implementing this. This is a modification to the existing bike path. As you can see, we're going to sweep towards into the park. That area that the new path is shown in is actually overlays with the existing work zone. So we'll be able to build all of that within the work zone before we turn it over to the public. It'll be at grade. The widths are slightly reduced to like a 12 and 8 foot width in that area. There'll be a lot of delineators between the bike lanes as well as the peds. The peds and bikes will be, they'll have a barrier between the two. All the reason to kind of slow everybody down during this duration. The trucks will mainly be focused on the roadway side work zone that's shown kind of in that beige color. The trucks coming in from 12th and exiting to the south. There will be some intermittent truck traffic that needs to cross the path in the middle. You'll see those two green arrows, but that is very much on the low volume, not a lot of that activity, and we'll look to do it in the low volume use of the trail to mitigate any impacts to the public. And once again, safety is the top priority when the trucks are interfacing with the pedestrians and cyclists. And so we'll have a lot of flaggers and signage in place prior to the implementation of this. Once we're done with this stage, we'll flip back. So when you go to stage 3, you'll see, there's a little more detailed cross section of what we'll be looking at for that bike lane / pedestrian path with the Jersey barrier in between the two. And then there's some delineators that are planned, especially in the curved areas, to help keep the bikes within their areas and not passing each other in the curves that are going through that zone. All right, next slide. All right, so stage 3. So what you can see here is after we've implemented the work in stage 2 in the beige area, we're now able to reestablish the bike path, at least in the horizontal configuration that most people are used to today. And we're going to be able to reestablish the full widths of the bikeway. The pedway does just kind of give you a clean 12-foot width. If you're out there, you know that it kind of deviates a little bit in width as it follows that fence line, but it'll just kind of be a clean 12-foot through this zone. The main difference is that the work that we're doing in that area to install the freeze pipes come up and they come above grade, and then there's header pipes to connect all the brine solution that is used to freeze the ground. and those need to extend above grade. And so as a result, we need to raise the bike path up 24 inches. That's like, if you're familiar with the area, the curb out on 12th right now in that area is 20 inches high. So it's just slightly higher than what the curb is out there right now. But this will facilitate those pipes to be able to extend above grade and to be able to keep that process going underneath as the bikes and peds go over the top. We're limited from an ADA standpoint of how quickly we can climb and how high we can climb. So this was kind of the balance of a lot of conversation that we've had with people throughout the last few months. And then in section, if you look at it, which is the next slide, you can kind of see that general representation. There's that curb along 12th. There's the full 24 inches that you would be raised above grade. You'd have barriers on either side. And even though they don't show the Jersey barrier to delineate between the pedestrians and bike path, that will also be implemented. Down below is a profile. You can kind of see in general, that's, all kind of done to scale to give everybody the perspective of what a 6-foot high biker would look like going up 24 inches and then coming back down with the 40-foot ramps on either side and the 100-foot distance that you would travel over the top. So it doesn't look that big on this screen, but we all know that it's going to be an impact to the traveling public. And so we want to get input from folks like we've been doing over the last few months. As for truck logistics, we go back to kind of the stage 1 configuration where trucks will be coming in from the north and exiting to the south. So that's one of those things where we're going to be able to kind of, outside of stage 2, really keep the public in kind of the same corridor in terms of what they're used to right now, outside of the vertical, modification to that. One other point that I would bring up is that the freeze pipes below the decking will occasionally need to be accessed for an emergency. They may need to do maintenance on them and need to get at them from above. And so the panels that'll be used to build this deck may need to be removed. And so there'd be some durations of impacts to the public. Those impacts would be in the very low volume use of the trails in the middle of the night, things like that. But I'm just bringing that up so people are aware that could happen, but it would be scheduled to occur in those off. I don't like using off-peak because I don't think we have an off-peak with such a busy trail. So low volume is the term that I've been trying to use a little bit more effectively. I think that's it for the bike and ped movements. All right. I'm going to take a little bit of tea. I apologize. I'm getting a little dry in the throat. And then we'll jump into the 12th Avenue lane shifts. So the 12th Avenue, oh, yeah, that's okay. You can go to the next slide. The 12th Avenue
Andy?
lane shifts. Yeah, no
I'm
problem.
sorry, it's Laura. Just before we go to the lane shifts, maybe if you could just spend a moment talking about how we put it all back together. The bike.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah.
That's okay.
If you could flip back to the previous slide. So this is stage 3 as we're working in there. Similarly to when we're in stage 1 and we're constructing the detour for stage 2, we'll do the same thing, right? We'll be able to complete the tunnels. The freeze pipes will be able to be removed in that blue area. We'll then be able to put pavement at grade for the bikes and peds, to temporarily be able to be routed through that work zone, just like we saw in stage 2. And so we'll do that, and then we'll implement the same restoration in the work zone that we're using in stage 2. I guess that would be stage 4 at that point. Pull the freeze pipes out, reestablish and restore the bike path as it is today, and then put the peds and bikes on that zone, go back into the work zone that's slightly smaller than what's shown on the screen right now, and finish up any additional restoration while the peds and bikes are back to their original configuration. So that's kind of how we'll unwind from at this point. I think that addressed that question, Laura, but feel free
Thank
to
you.
let me know if there's, yeah, worse. Okay. 12th Avenue lane shift. So this is completely independent. These two kind of operations, although I want them to align at certain phases at the same time, you'll see as we walk through this, they're completely independent. That was a question that's come up in some of the discussions, if they work together. But in general, to facilitate the jet route installation that goes in below 12th Avenue, that's the ground improvement to help with the chocolate pudding. The contractor is going to need to have access from the surface, and for some reason, nobody wants to let me close all 12 lanes of 12th Avenue. So we're going to have to sequence it to facilitate work happening in smaller work zones. And to do that, we're going to have to remove the center median. And if you've been out there recently, you can see that some of that center median work is ongoing right now. That is going to allow us to establish what I affectionately as a Minnesotan call the ice rink, because it'll give us a clean, width of roadway to move the lanes back and forth, and then create these work zones in between those areas. Similarly, that was mentioned earlier, there'll be the trees that'll be removed as part of the median work will be replaced and replanted at the conclusion of the project. I think one of the biggest things, though, is that the eastern sidewalk is going to be impacted between 29th and 30th. It's going to be closed during the duration. In addition, the northern crosswalk between across 12th on the north side of 29th will be closed as well. But that impact isn't as dramatic because we're already closing the north side of 29th. If you guys have been out there, there's a portion of 29th that's been closed. So there isn't really PEDs coming in that east to west direction. So there's a pretty limited impact there. And once again, the refuges that are out there already as you cross will be maintained at 29th and 30th. So with that overview, we can jump into the figures. If you go to the next slide, this is basically phase one. So once that center median will be removed, you can see that we can shift the lanes around and still maintain the 7 lanes of traffic that exist today. That northern crosswalk that I mentioned would be closed, as well as that eastern crosswalk where we would be at stage 1, we'll be implementing the jet route work. Pedestrians will move across 12th in the areas indicated in purple and enter into the HRPT area and move north and south from that direction. As we move across through the various stages, you'll see the work zone move around, and ultimately the traffic lanes just, basically shift. But one of the things that stays the same is all these pedestrian movements are the same throughout all of the 4 or 5 stages that we're anticipating needing right now. So if you go to stage 2, you'll see that we continue to use those 2 crosswalks for the pedestrians. Now we've shoved the lanes all the way back to the east and freed up a work zone along the west side. And it's pretty much the same setup. And you go to stage 3 and you'll see some of those southbound lanes jump. And you go to stage 4 and the southbound lanes will jump more. And then you go to stage 5 and a couple of the northbound lanes jump. So effectively, we're just kind of working our way across the street with these work zones to install that ground improvement below so that the tunnels can get constructed. During this period of time, we're just putting in temporary asphalt. The idea there is that as we build the work, it's quicker to put the asphalt in for a temporary condition, because ultimately we want to let the ground improvement get installed and the tunnels get constructed. And once those are constructed, we would then come back and implement a similar staging operation to install the concrete panels, because this is all concrete pavement that's within 12th Avenue right now. And that operation would follow a similar staging operation in the future. So I think that's it.
I'll jump in here. My name is Laura Colacarcio. I'm the Deputy Director for Government and Community Affairs at the Gateway Development Commission. And recognizing that what's on these slides actually have real world impacts, we want to make sure we talk to you a little bit about how we plan to engage with your group, with the community board, and with members of the public and the people who use the park for commutation, recreation, and what have you. So just spending a little bit of time talking about what we have ahead for us this fall. Going back to the slides Andy presented, a lot of these meaningful changes where you'll see an appreciable difference on a daily basis happen in the beginning of the year. But we want to make sure we're coming to you now, getting some feedback, answering your questions, and making sure that we can signal to the biking community in particular the changes that are ahead. So we're here tonight. Thank you very much again for having us at the Hudson River Park Advisory Council meeting. We've also talked to the co-chairs and plan to engage the full committee of Community Board 4's Waterfront Parks and Environment Committee. And then we also have a Manhattan Construction Task Force that GDC hosts that have many of the members that we might see around the table today or on the community board or in our elected officials' offices. But we bring them together on a regular monthly basis to make sure we're reporting out on construction activities. And the next meeting will feature a presentation just the same as what you saw today. We're also ongoing public outreach, distributing our construction notices. We outreach to the press when we have meaningful changes so that we can reach a wider audience. We also hope you'll help amplify that messaging for us as well. And then we have continued engagement on social media as well. In particular, talking about the cycling community, because we do realize that we have an active and engaged group here in New York, and particularly who use Hudson River Park. We want to make sure we're going to some of those groups who can get to the folks who are utilizing the park on a daily basis. And so we've identified some groups here where we'll be doing direct engagement, giving them the same information we've given you today, and also checking in to see how things are going once those changes are in place. If you could take a look at this list, if you know of any others that we might have missed or have any other ideas of folks we should be reaching out to, please let us know. We'd be happy to take it and happy to continue to talk to more folks so that they're safely using the park going forward. We're also posting construction notices on our website. I think Emma's added you to a mailing list where you're getting all of that information. Those construction notices will be sent to all of the elected officials' offices, the community boards, the surrounding buildings. We're making sure that we're doing a really good job of letting folks in the area know what's happening in their neighborhood. And then finally, we're eager to hear from all of you. I'm excited to take your questions, and I'm sure you have many. That was an in-depth presentation. But we want to see, as these changes are taking place in the park, what you're hearing from your neighbors, from other members of the council, from users of the park who come to you as liaisons to organizations like ours. So you can utilize a hotline we have here. I'm sure we'll all make ourselves very available. We also have an email address that's monitored 24/7 and responded to in real time. Our website is also a really great place to keep track of the progress. You can sign up for notices for the Manhattan Tunnel project specifically, for the Hudson Yards concrete casing that Rebecca talked about, and for the Hudson River ground stabilization, which is that in-water work that you see out there today. Each one of those groups also, each one of those projects also has an earth cam. And so what you can do is visit our website on the homepage and get a live look at construction progress. So that's really exciting for people like me who get to see from an office what it looks like, but then go out into the real world and see exactly what construction looks like today. We have a general mailing list that's also really fun and engaging. We have a newsletter that talks a little bit more about the Hudson Tunnel project. We're here talking about the nuts and bolts of construction as it impacts everyday lives, but the overall project is really something to behold. We haven't dug tunnels like these in over 100 years. It's an engineering marvel. There are several ways that we tunnel to do this. It's really neat to just kind of get the history, get some profiles of the workers who are actually doing the work on the ground for this project. And that newsletter is going to cover all of that information for you. So I'd encourage you to sign up. Might be the conclusion. Oh, we lost our community engagement center fell off this list. Very exciting. So we're opening a community engagement center over on 9th Avenue coming in November. It's going to be interactive. We're going to have exhibits. There's going to be a model of a tunnel that you can sort of walk through.
You know, the person in charge of that is my husband, and you'd have to ask him.
No, well, you're on
Who's that?
No, I'm sort of half paying attention, but I don't have to.
Huh?
Oh, whose husband's in charge of the community engagement center? I don't know him. Well, exciting. I mean, he sounds excited, but we will have a community engagement center. We'd love to invite you all to in November once we're launched and open. We'll have some engagement with local schools in the area to get them excited about the project. We hope that it'll be a real space that people come and visit to learn about all of the progress on both sides of the river. And I'm sorry that that's not on the slide here, but we'll make sure that Robert gets the date for when we officially launch. And with that, I think we'll open for questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
I want to thank the folks from GDC. This was a really impressive presentation, a lot of information to process. We really do look forward to continued engagement with you, and maybe you coming back at some point when there's new information or evolution in the process or progression. So we look forward to that as well. And so now I will start to take questions. I will first start in the room and then I will go online. And did I see a hand? I see.
A really quick question. As the bike lane goes up 24 inches over 40 feet, is there a drop off on either side?
There'll be a barrier on either side to keep people contained within that up and down.
The approaches.
Yeah, we'll to mitigate the drop off.
That and so the barrier will stop, you know, because there's a lot of traffic and there's a lot of passing. So there's no chance of somebody falling off 2 feet on right or left. Yeah, there's a barrier. Thank you.
That's correct. Yep. But good comment.
Okay, I'm going to pass the mics around. So
I'll use the mic. Thank you very much. That was very impressive presentation. My concern is what systems are in place if slurry disposal fails, which is basically the offshoot from the tunneling machines when which I'm sure you're aware of. And can you confirm no untreated discharge will go into the river? I assume you will have pits or something or backup barges to dispose of that? Because we don't, the last thing we need is an accident to happen and for it to be released in the sewers, which I know is a really major no-no.
So is the concern the grouting operation to install the freeze pipes? Is it the tunneling operation? What's the concern?
The tunneling operation, because basically there's going to be a lot of displaced contaminants, soil. I think you guys call it slurry. I think that's the technical name.
So basically in active mining, you have a face pressure that's established. Some are EPB machines, which is earth pressure balance machines. Some are slurry machines where you use a slurry within the chamber to create that pressure. We are actually using digger shields as part of this job. So it's not an active face pressure. The reason why we're able to do that is that we're going in to improve all the ground ahead of time. So we'll have that jet grout established as well as the frozen ground established. So I always think of being a kid building the big snow forts and you get that snow packed in there and you're able to just kind of mine without anything else. And that's effectively at the face is what it'll be. That digger shield will go ahead and kind of move it forward to protect the workers within the steel shield, and they'll excavate out the material as they go. But the frozen ground, the jet grout will be established beforehand. So that concern, I don't think is as eminent here as maybe other projects.
The way I understand it, the way you're disposing it is via the barges. Is that correct? On trucks? We're talking about the muck that you're digging up from.
Yeah.
You're talking about the muck. Yeah, go ahead.
Muck, all the soil.
The muck
everything,
gets pushed out.
displaced.
Yes, the muck gets
Yeah,
pushed
yeah,
out
yeah.
to New Jersey.
To New Jersey? Seriously? Really? Right. Right. Oh, okay. So how does that, how do you control the air pollution that's going to be coming from the trucks or the barges themselves? Are you going to be running electrics to them so they don't rely completely on their engines and dispersing a lot of pollutants in the air while they're idling? Because you're expecting like 15 trucks a day, I think is what the estimate was, right?
For the chiller barge, I can tell you that the minute we can connect to power, tap into power from the grid rather than generators. The sooner we get it, the sooner we want to operate it, both for our benefit and for the environment. We're hoping that by the time the chiller barges start operating, by that time we already have connectivity, but we can't commit to that.
Gotcha. I don't want to monopolize too much more time, but my last question is, how is this going to be monitored? So basically, it gets ensured that this stuff's being done. I understand you're going to be waiting for, get attachments to the electric grid, but how long is that going to possibly take? Are you guys going to proceed anyway? Because I know you have a timetable to meet.
Yes, I think probably Ashton. I don't know if she's on. She's not on. Go.
There are environmental teams that are in place that make sure that we're not doing things like letting any sort of liquid go into the ground, that are making sure when trucks are leaving sites, they're watered down so the dust isn't coming into communities. So these are folks that we employ as part of the contract package that are charged with solely looking at the construction site every single day to make sure any environmental impacts are mitigated. When it comes to powering up something like the chiller barges, I know that Guy's team is already talking to Con Edison on several other coordination points, and this will be part of that conversation. The idea will be the sooner the better, but that's something that we'll have to work through with the grid operator. But please rest assured that there are environmental conditions that were set out through the EIS process that we're required to adhere to federally. And also, of course, as a good neighbor, and people are working on that every day. Thank you for the question.
I have a question. Green. Green. Hi. It's green. Okay. So I have a tough time visualizing. Okay. Is it working? Okay. So I'm trying to visualize the proximity of everything, particularly the bike lanes up where the actual construction is going on. What's the potential for construction debris accumulating on the bike lane? I mean, is that accounted for? Is that prepared for? Or especially when in the wake of very bad weather?
Andy, we'll go to you for that.
Yeah, so we'll have K-rail or Jersey barrier on either side of the bike lane, or in the initial phase, kind of on that first phase, the west side. But basically, and then there's a 8-foot minimum, so you'll have the Jersey barrier with about a 5-foot fence on top of it to mitigate any debris coming out on the bike lanes themselves. So it's a low potential, but you're right, during extreme weather events, there could be a potential for that, and that's something that we'll take note of and make sure that we've got a plan in place to at least monitor the bike paths, post storm, to clean them up and things like that, so that we don't just leave them for the public to deal with.
Yeah, but I also want to add that we'll have fences along where the construction site. So if you're in the
Yeah.
park, you're not necessarily going to see the marine temporary structure. We want to make sure that people, like if you're out on the water, you'll be able to see that, but there'll be fencing and wraps around the fence there in order to protect that.
It'll be similar to what it is today, I guess, is what I would tell folks, right? If you go along that reach right now, it's the black mesh is in that fence. And you'll just, for certain sections, you'll have Jersey barrier at the bottom of it with the black mesh top.
Excellent. Thank you.
I'd like to pile a little bit on that. Yeah. Piles. It's a. Although this is very involved, and you see all the construction activity, and we talk about grouting and installing freeze pipes, et cetera. After that stage is done, it's a lot of black magic happening under the ground. It's not like we have constant drilling there throughout the project, but rather the chiller barges work, brine is circulated, the ground freezes slowly under, and the majority of the work happens across the road, not in the park, while we maintain and we need to do it, but it's not like heavy construction is happening constantly throughout this period. If it
Across the road at 675.
exactly across 12th Avenue from the main shaft where we launch the machines, we muck out, as we explained, and we'll be more low key on that side.
Excellent. You've thought about it.
Another question regarding that, the bike lane, your section shows it's elevated and there's a gap underneath it? So is it kind of like a bridge, or is it
Yep.
And what's
Yeah,
the tip of that bridge?
it's effectively a bridge. Yeah, it's effectively a bridge to allow for clearance above the freeze pipes that would be located below them so that they have the ability to access them. And for majority of the maintenance access, they'll be able to crawl under and deal with it, but occasionally they'll need to pull a panel from the bike lane.
And what's the finish of the bike lane? What are the bikes riding on?
The bikes we haven't finished that detail out, but it'll be obviously it's got to be ADA compliant, but it's going to be a low slip surface in terms of it's not just going to be when you see the steel plates that they put out in the street sometimes that are really dangerous for the narrow tired bikes, things like that. Nothing like that. But I don't have a
You'll
good
take
answer
all that.
for you.
You'll
Yeah.
take all that into account.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you very much. Regarding the heliport, I don't know if that's your purview or maybe Robert. Is it the north part of the heliport is still going to be operating? Is the parking lot going to be open? And who's going to be monitoring the cars going across all of this work? Is that
My understanding is that heliport will still monitor the cars that are accessing their parking lot. But we'll need to continue to work with them. We have discussed having a meeting with them as work starts to ramp up to ensure that we're coordinated. But that's currently the working thought, but happy to hear concerns from the existing conditions or maybe how things have worked in the past if there's been construction in the area that we can
it
take
hasn't
into
been
account.
construction, but from past experience, the flag people are generally not out there very often.
So
I see.
this one, from the trust perspective here, we have not relieved Air Pegasus of its responsibility for having flaggers during the peak hours to help make sure that their vehicles are getting able to safely cross the bikeway. We know that this is a confluence with the Gateway's truck entrance, which is immediately adjacent to it, right? They are back to back. And so we are also working with Gateway to make sure that they also have flaggers to make sure that their vehicles and their folks are able to safely get in and through that space as well. So it's gonna have to be a work in partnership. Obviously, we're not gonna have flaggers like countering each other, but it is a space that we know is a conflict point between both all the vehicles as well as north-south pedestrians and also the users of the bikeway. We're trying to make sure that we are able to safely get everybody through that intersection without an incident. So.
Just a curiosity of, have you looked at the decibels of like noise level for the machines and how that's going to impact the neighborhood?
In terms of like the particular machine, I don't have the decibel levels of the particular machines that, I mean, I can't even tell you how much we talk about noise impacts. Actually really glad you don't live in the New Jersey side. Can be a little bit more complicated, but New Jersey's lovely. I don't want to say that, but I would say that that's part of all the environmental compliance that Laura was talking about earlier. And then we'll be engaging regularly with the contractor in terms of particular operations that are going to be happening. And if they're going to, they have to mitigate noise at the source. So that's something that we are very much on top of on a daily basis with the contractor and work with them all the time.
Thank you. I'm going to go online now. Tom, why don't you ask your question?
Thank you, Susan. Yes, I was wondering, you were speaking about the TA and other transportation groups. Were they involved with you in in the way you laid out the paths in the first place? Did you have input from pedestrian and transportation groups as you were designing your design? Because I noticed it didn't say draft, but the 12th Avenue one said draft.
Yeah, we're planning to do engagement with those particular groups now as we
After
were
the fact.
Well, we're not wedded to these. These are illustrative drawings. So if we go to someone like a Transportation Alternatives and they flag a real safety issue for us, that's of course something we're going to take back to the engineering team and make sure that Andy considers that as we finalize those designs. So there's still, definitely room to hear concerns from communities that are heavily using the bike and ped space. I will say that there has been a lot of research of that particular area and how much it is used. So there's been pedestrian counts and bike counts, and we sort of have an understanding for how people are using the park at that particular area. But we're still in a feedback gathering phase. I'll just reiterate that the big change you'll see will start to happen in the beginning of next year. And that's why we're here with you today in September, so that we can come to you first, go out to these very specific communities who will be impacted, and make those tweaks along the edges to make sure that people are comfortable with the plans.
Great. So it would be wonderful if you would share those numbers with us, because as the safety committee is always looking at numbers along the Greenway, it would help us have contemporary numbers on a specific section of the Greenway, which would be helpful.
Yeah, and I know we have numbers on the
Oh,
crossings at 29th and
great.
30th, and I'll look back and see what other data, but whatever data we have, we're willing to share.
Yeah,
So
one would
we'll come
assume
back
that you
to you on
didn't, one would assume you didn't come up with a plan without data that designed it. But I
Sounds
think
like
that,
we're governed by the same principles.
yes, we are science. I think narrowing the bike path is not a good idea when you're disrupting the bike path, because there's a flow north and south. And if it's being narrowed at the same time as it's being walled in on both sides, it makes it feel claustrophobic, and it's already substandard to begin with. So anything you can do to make it wider during that period when you're going to make it, take 7 feet narrower, I think, in total. Yeah, that temporary
Yeah,
phase
I'll
two.
correct that, Tom.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be 3 feet narrower, so it'll be 12 feet for the bike path versus 15.
Okay, and
But agreed with your comment.
8 feet for the walkway instead of 12.
Yep.
Correct.
Yeah,
So
yes, sir.
together that's 7. 3 and
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep.
okay.
Okay.
That's what I meant. I'm looking at the whole thing. The other thing is the thought might be to Henry Stern, the Parks Commissioner, who was infamous in New York, always thought that trees that were being cut down should be replaced in volume, not just in numbers. And the trees you cut down, I have photographs of them going up the west side in the center, in the median, are about 20-inch DBH. You're not going to plant a tree 20-inch DBH in the middle of the highway. So I might add that the park could always use trees. So if you're cutting down trees, perhaps you get the volume of the trees you're cutting down, and what you don't put in the median, you add to the park, because we can always use them. Might be a good mitigation, if you will. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, Robert?
Yeah, thanks. I think Tom hit on a couple of my points, so let me just add maybe a little bit to his. Yeah, just to understand in terms of the tree replacement, if you're going to use, in particular for the trees that are lost due to the necessary field operation or that building for the staff in the park as opposed to in the highway median, if you're going to use the New York City DBH formula to replace them as opposed to just a 1-for-1 replacement, it'd be good to understand that. So I don't know if you have an answer to that then, but I did have 2 other points.
Yeah, keep going.
Okay, so and then on the widening of the road, again, it was to bring up something similar in particular, and somebody else mentioned this, and as someone who bikes on this pretty regularly, bikers have a certain amount of bad behavior at times, and people might try to pass each other on that bridge, and accidents will happen and people will get stuck on the bridge. So anything you can do to keep it wider, potentially having some sort of way for people to exit that 100-foot span in the middle if they need to, might be something to consider if you can do that safely. Or, signage about do not pass, not guaranteeing anyone will pay attention to it, but, it's maybe worth a try. And again, I say that in full respect to my fellow bike riders And then the last thing is actually a question about the in-water impacts to the fish. This, I guess, that platform and the structures will be there, it sounds like, for several migratory seasons for striped bass. And just curious about if you guys could characterize the conversations you've been having with the National Marine Fisheries Service or with New York State DEC about any mitigation in terms of operations during those spring migration seasons in particular, or anything to do with the fisheries.
Ben Engel, who's listening, can actually, who's from Gateway Development Commission, can give more information about. Ben, are you there?
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yep, very well.
Okay, great. Sorry I'm not there tonight. I'm some childcare. Anyway, with respect to the fish, so per our FEIS record of decision and our permits with New York State DEC and the Army Corps of Engineers, we can only do work in the river between July 1st and January 20th. The work that has been described tonight will only occur during that period. During the other side of the calendar, so from January 21st to June 30th, we can do work in the river as long as it's in a contained environment. So in the middle of the river, we have, as you've probably or may have seen, at approximately 30th Street, we have a cofferdam that's steel pipe and sheet piles, and that creates a working environment that contains all the work in that area, in that box per se, and it excludes the fish, the sturgeon and the striped bass in particular, and so a similar concept will apply with respect to the work described tonight. The marine structure, and then the casings for the freezing operations will be installed prior to the close of the fish work window, so prior to January 20th. And then once those casings are installed, we can do the work within the casings because the casing creates that fish exclusion area and contains the work in a protected environment. So we've done consultation with National Marine Fisheries and New York State DEC and the Army Corps of Engineers, and the Army Corps of Engineers and the DEC. This work is required to have a permit from them, and that fish window, which dates back to the original EIS, is continued to be committed. We continue to be committed to that, to ensuring that we're doing work during that period, and that period only.
And just so I understand, so within that enclosed area on the bulkhead, near the bulkhead, you'll be doing that work, and will that include kind of drilling equipment, or is there a noise level that's associated with the work that'll be happening in that space?
I'll turn it over to our engineering team. Guy, if you want to talk about that.
Can you repeat the question? Sorry. With regards to noise level, is the noise contained by the containment that Ben was talking about?
Yeah, I'm just kind of just curious about like the noise within that, which will have an impact on the fish potentially, or there's a certain amount of research that it'll have an impact on the fish, that they'll avoid that. And I'm just kind of curious if that was a condition of your permit at all, or if that's not, it did not come up.
I can't remember here if that was a condition of a permit, but we can definitely check, take it offline and check. Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we do have to keep moving at this point. I thank everyone for their questions. This was a terrific presentation and we hope to see you again. So, excellent, excellent. Thank you, everyone. And that's one of our goals. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next item is the historic ship berthing opportunities. And Mary.
Well, I wanted to start with kind of an overview because we've asked a couple of times about if now that Pier 97 is open, if there was anything being done to bring a vessel in there because it's one of the 3 piers where that's supposed to happen. And just as a reminder first to everyone, there is 1 berth at Pier 97, 1 berth at Pier 26, 2 berths at Pier 25 for long-term docking, and 1 berth for visiting vessels there, as well as the one used for the restaurant operation we know as Grand Banks. So one thing is there any ongoing discussion about with any of the applicants from the last RFEI, which is back in 2019, or plans to issue a new one?
We haven't engaged the most recent ones, and I actually just want to sort of amend your list here because I don't think it was accurate. So we have Pier 25 has 3 to 4 berths in total. Pier 26 has 1 berth. Pier 66A has a berth. Pier 84 has 1 berth. Pier 86 obviously has the largest historic ship museum in New York City, the most heavily visited one, which has several ships as part of it. And then Pier 97 also has a berth.
Okay. I did not count the Intrepid, true.
It absolutely should in terms
Or
of
because
historic
Pier
ships in New York
66
City.
in
We
our
have the largest, both the
Because
actual largest,
I'm
most
pictured.
heavily visited, most popular historic ship museum in New York City is in here in Hudson River Park.
All right, so I stand corrected, but for the ones that I mentioned where the ships are not fixtures, have there been any efforts, any ongoing discussions to previous applicants or plans to market them to new ones?
We have been looking at this. We've talked about this before. I think we have started to go back to look at some of the both previous applicants, but also some of the previous experiences the trust has had with boats. Not all of the ones that we have brought in over the years have been successful. It's an area of the history that I myself am not as familiar. I know some of the pieces of it. It is something that we are looking to do. I think we kind of have to some initial conversation for that first. I don't have a specific timeline for it. I know we are also looking at using a number of these spaces for sail forth next year. We have, offered them to their team as well. So there is some timing pieces on it. It is certainly something that we have committed to do before, and we'll have to we'll continue to advance upcoming. I just don't have a specific timeline.
Okay. As part of that, I've proposed for a future meeting that we look at the historic vessel policy and getting that revised. For one thing, it's out of date. It still lists Pier 54 as one of the places, among other things. But as part of all that, when you go to the Hudson River Park website, if you were interested in docking a vessel here, you can't find any information. You find the 2019 RFEI and there's an email called historicvessels@hrpt.gov or something like that, that I don't know if is being monitored anymore, if someone got that far. But you can't just find someone like, who do I call? Here's the historic vessel person. I think even some simple things like that would be really helpful because you do also have 1 berth for visiting vessels.
Yeah, that's definitely something we can take a look at on how to do it. We do have occasionally folks who have reached out. They often find us through, say, our info box, which is sort of our catch-all for when folks are interested in reaching out and partnering us or engaging us on a topic. That includes basically anything you can imagine someone has requested to do here in Hudson River Park or is interested in partnering with us on comes through that. So we definitely have gotten requests like that before. Not all of folks, a lot of folks like their ship is either requires a 30-foot depth in order to pull in, and we don't always have the things. Their timing doesn't always work out. There are conversations that we have had. I'll acknowledge not many, but it's not that we have Hello, did we lose everybody online?
Are you all back?
All right. Well, folks, are we here? Okay, we can hear me now. Great. It looks like, oh, let me turn on our video. Seems like we had the tech and Pier 7 having some issues tonight. So, as I was saying, your canal boat, a replica. It is traveling the journey from that or one of the original boats did from there with the president at the time, President DeWitt Clinton, inaugural canal journey. It will be coming to Hudson River Park. It will be at Pier 26 on October 25 and 26 this coming year. There'll be a celebratory event, which as we get some more information on exactly what it will look like, we are doing a bunch to support that event. We will share information. It's kind of in the air. There may be some high New York State government officials coming who often get to dictate what events like that look like. I believe a band is coming down from West Point, and there will also then be a series of programming that the Buffalo Maritime Museum is putting on. So you'll be able to get on the boat, you'll go explore it. They'll have tours. They're looking at doing some individual crafts. I think they might have a merch tent. So there are some fun things that are going to be available for the public there as part of its 2-day stay here in New York City.
But they're going to go to New Jersey for overnight.
I don't believe that they have confirmed their plans for that.
Okay.
Why aren't they sleeping on something like Lilac or one of the ships in the harbor? We're supposed to be welcoming them to our harbor.
Yep. So we have, and I think you guys sounds like you already have talked about this, and we want to have a direct conversation. We
Yeah,
can.
well, I heard that they were thinking about living aboard there for a few days, and now I hear it's not happening. Mary just said about Jersey. So why wouldn't we be hosting them here when they're coming all the way from Albany? And there was never a President DeWitt Clinton. It was Governor.
Sorry. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you
yeah,
for the
you're
correction.
welcome.
So we're working directly with the Buffalo Maritime Museum to try to figure out exactly what their needs are. They have needs that exceed, I think, on some of these pieces on what we're able to offer. We have, when we allow folks to sleep overnight on vessels for this, our policy is and has been that there's a kind of a programmatic reason attached to it, Mary. I think you've had interns who sleep on your boat and other reasons like that. We've engaged them on what their needs are. We've talked to them about what it is. They are, I think, interested in things like showers and other facilities that we don't have available. They are also interested in using the boat for folks who or they're looking for lodging for folks who are, say, not associated with the boat also. They may use the boat for it, but they're not actually associated, they're not crew, they're not part of it. They're using it as a hotel. So we're working directly on them, on their needs, and having that conversation with them.
So if there were crew that needed to stay there because they wanted to be proximal to the boat, that would be fine.
So we have offered them and have already offered
okay, great.
a ship's watch, which would be sort of that overnight piece of it.
Yeah, right.
Yes, we're still in active conversations with them
But-
as they're kind of figuring out their individual needs.
Robert, just as a point of interest, we're a maritime park. Policies, we're going to get to the policies. We're going to get to a 2019 RFP. We may get a historic ship there. You don't have any historic ship person. You don't have anybody that comes that represents the maritime world. Perhaps the trust should hire a maritime person to actually coordinate all the in-water stuff. You're a very, very busy man.
We
that
do.
might be
Jim
helpful.
Gill, Jim
Yeah, I know
Gill
Jim. He was one of my captains.
is our captain. He works hand in hand with our real estate team who works with our wide range of folks who are using the park. So that includes our nonprofit tenants, our partnership.
So people can just call Jim up and inquire about something in the park, and that's fine. That's okay. Because I'm not familiar. I've known Jim for 25 years. But I've only seen him at one of these meetings, I think. So
that is certainly an entry point to any conversation with us. We take inquiries in a wide range of ways.
okay, we should take the conversation offline.
through our
Okay.
larger process to make sure that we are complying with all our legal needs and permits and insurance and all the other things, and that there is a larger review that goes on it. Certainly, Jim Gill is a point for it. We have a robust historic ship community in both Hudson River Park here on our advisory council, very well represented. I don't think it's fair to say at all that we don't engage with the historic ship or the historic ship community.
I'm talking about having one on your team rather than seeking their advice so that as you're making decisions in an informed way. That's it. Point made. Sorry.
Okay, great. I'm gonna be very selective tonight. I wrote you guys over 5,000 word opus here. I hope you read every single word. There is a quiz at the end because I included some factoids on numbers, and if you don't remember them, I'm gonna go back to reading the whole thing all over. So there are a couple things that I want to flag, particularly in design and construction here. We are still working very slowly to get our TCO for the Pier 97 building, which would allow us to open the restrooms. This is something obviously we've hoped to do a long time ago and has been incredibly frustrating to work through the city process. But yeah, we are continuing to press the department buildings on this point. We have passed our fire department pieces, all of that. We're waiting for the DOB to issue us a certificate, and we hope to do that as soon as we can. Since our last meeting, we had another really great meeting with Community Board 4 on the 29th Street, 44th Street design. Folks will remember this is the focus area that goes from the north side of Pier 29 through Pier 84. Because we went to CB4, they had issued a really great letter endorsing a lot of it. A few comments that we are thrilled to be able to help try to work with. Because this portion of the park is underlying city property, we have to take designs to the New York City Public Design Commission. At this point, we took the concept design, which is frankly very similar to what the Community Board foresaw, what we did at our public engagement meetings that you guys were all invited to. We took it there to get their sign off on the conceptual piece. We'll have to go back for when we have final designs. Right now, the community, our design team is taking sort of all that collective feedback that we've gotten from all our sources to try to come up with a design. And so this is going to be a quiet period for a little bit, but we look forward to sharing more as we come back. We are also continuing to work on, and I know this has been an interest area for here, the upland area between Pier, the privately owned Pier 78 and through the frontage of Pier 79. This includes both the private owner of Pier 78, New York City DOT, New York City E2C, New York Waterway. So it's a complicated piece. The MTA has a piece of this. So there's a complicated series of pieces here. We're trying to unstick some of those confluences and user groups within that so that we can try to do what we can to improve this frontage area. I look forward to have some more information on that at a future meeting. We also note just on Pier 84 that the local community board and folks at this advisory council have expressed their interest on try to reactivate the concession there. It is something we're actively working on. I believe I heard this week that we have made it through a significant hoop on some of the work that finishing out some of the work and work permits that the previous occupant had started but not concluded, which has been a very painful process for us to be able to work through to close those out. So we hope to have more information as we start looking forward for that space. As we previously reported, we have a significant amount of construction coming up at Pier 40. Hudson Meridian is our contractor for it. We moved forward on the first scope of it, first major scope, which is going to be the continuing upgrades to the fire suppression system, and along that, a bunch of series of structural work that is attached to that. If you are replacing things and there's cracks, you have to do some of the structural work or a lot that is hooked into. Bidding is now underway. This is going to be pretty costly and we acknowledge very disruptive. As soon as we have information, we are working with them to plan to do it in a least disruptive way possible. We will engage tenants and users of it as we have more information as to what that will be. I know the first question is going to be, how does it impact all the field users and our baseball community there and our boating community there? We we'll, as soon as we have answers, we will engage folks. We'll try to give folks much notice. Working across a 15-acre pier is hard. One domino at the front of a very long succession of process will change timing. And so it's hard to give specifics, like to say this is going to be the specific window at this point in time. We do know it will be passing through every space in Pier 40. That's my office. It's Noreen's office. It's the hallway between our offices. It's every conference room. It's every hallway. It's every bathroom. It's the entirety of the garage. Every single space will see construction at some point as part of this. It's going to take the next few years. But with that, the teams will be moving throughout it. Folks may see at Pier 40, and it's actually something that you won't see. We have, under a pedestrian safety and security grant received from Congressman Nadler many years ago, we finally made it way through our the HUD process to activate it. We've removed a number of street lights that were cluttering the sidewalk. They were defunct. We have put additional lights up on top of the building to make sure that it's adequately lit. It's actually a vast improvement if you go for it now. I walked in it this morning and I didn't even think that I used to have to step around this thing, and it walked right through it. It was excellent. We are upcoming on September 16th. So next week, we're going to be Manhattan Community Board 1, Waterfront and Cultural Committee on designs for the estuarium. So it's an update on the estuarium design. We'd implore everyone who's interested in coming to hear about it to come participate. We also, with that, and I think this was settled after the report was finalized, I think on the 17th, we are going to be going to CB4's transportation committee to talk about some of the transportation aspects of the Pier 80, the 29 to 44th Street process. So that's some of that, the area there where the MTA lay-by just south of Pier 84. So we're going to be talking about some of the pedestrian impacts and traffic transit impacts from that project if folks want to come to that. This fall, we're replacing the turf, Pier 25 turf area, much like we replaced the Pier 45 turf area this spring. We're working to make sure that we're trying to avoid disrupting the field users as much as possible. We don't have many on Pier 45, much like we don't have on 46. It's reserved for open use. I will skip Pride other than to say it was overall a very successful year, heavily used. Because of the weather, we saw more folks than we have seen in some previous years cycle through. Folks really expanded to use the full use of Pier 45. So it was a jam-packed year. We overall very successful, safe event. I believe we had 10 people who had to get first aid from our implemented first aid. We had a couple fights. We had 2 people who had to go to the hospital from the fights after a macing incident. As well as 2 PEP officers had to be treated on the scene. It is a big event, and I'll say on that. Overall, a very successful year. Park was restored by the next day-ish. I'm going to skip forward in time. Folks here will be very interested. We have, as I think previously reported, we selected P3 as part of the youth baseball operator at Pier 40. Very exciting. We have since finalized the permit, which is issued, and we are thrilled to be able to have them continue to be partners providing programming in Hudson River Park. Just south of here of the meeting, Hudson Plate opened at Gansevoort. We also have the New York Picnic Company, which is offering a cart service, foods cart service up in around the carousel right now. They're the new carousel operator and will be operating the future Chelsea Waterside concession. So I think that also just passed a recent, I think, Department of Health piece of it. And so they're hoping to get that running up again soon. I'm going to keep going forward. We talked about Seneca Chief. Sail Forth, I know this is a question on everybody's mind. It's a question that's top of my mind as I try to plan my way into next year for what is exactly happening with Sail Forth and what exactly happening with New York City and what the collective plans are for the millions or so people that are going to come try to be here to watch this thing. It's super exciting. We don't have a lot of information. I continue strenuous efforts to wrangle all of our collective partners into making decisions and advancing it. And as soon as I have information that is able to be shared, I will share it with all of you. We have habitat monitoring has been ongoing. We've received some additional grants. We've had great summer internships. I'm going to skip ahead. All of our public programs you guys should read about. It's a ton of work. We do a lot of great work on it. two cool ones that I think folks may not have seen is that we work with Wheeling Forward on an adaptive skating day at Pier 62. This was a new one, which is really exciting. And then also we work with the Kiki Coalition and the Hendrik Martin Institute to host Youth Pride Fest on Pier 76. So those are two ones outside of some of our other cool things that we do. Everything from our Juneteenth event and Pride to Jazz and Blues. Broadway by the Boardwalk was a smash success. If anyone made it up to Clinton Cove, you definitely should have. If you didn't, you should come next year. It was excellent. Two events I do want to highlight that are, or a couple events I want to highlight that are upcoming. We're partnering with the Chelsea Waterside Park Association on September 20th to do a little community celebration, some music, some celebrations, some crafts, activities for kids and adults in Chelsea Waterside Park from 12 to 4. And we're partnering with the West 44th Street Better Block Associations and Friends of Pier 84 to do a very similar kind of community celebration of the pier on Saturday, September 27th, also from 12 to 4. Upcoming, we have a very cool one. This is a dance program that they work with community folks from community. You can go sign up for Larry Kegwin's Rhapsody. You work with professional dancers on the rehearsal, and then there are 2 performances on Pier 84 that include community members. You could all go beyond the stage of Pier 84. I'm looking around the room, and each and every one of you, you have a dancer in you. Come learn something new in Hudson River Park. Pumpkin Smash is upcoming, or always an exciting one at the end of October. This year, it is November 1. It is the day after Halloween. For scheduling purposes, unfortunately, we did not think we'd be able to get pumpkins over a full week after Halloween. We think they would lose, but we're a little worried about making folks be able to give it up. I think people probably would throw it out Monday morning instead of Saturday, come smash it with us on Saturday. But we're hopeful it should be another success. We've been working with State DOT on lights along the bikeway. They have replaced from Gansevoort down to Jane and are doing enhancements further south. I think this is an issue that was brought up here last year. There have been a series of outages along along the route. So I know it's something that they are looking at. And this is the quiz. How many barricades did we move for Pride? Anybody know? Over 800. We also have gone through 160 cases of toilet paper in the last 90 days, 64 of which were in the last 30 days. And that is where I'm going to end the report.
Ending on a high note. Thank you. It's as thorough as you possibly could be.
No, I could be much more thorough. There
well,
are many more pages of report.
As time permits. Thank you so much, Robert. Okay. Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Upgrade,
Not as a direct result of this. This is a sprinkler and structural work. And so there was, folks may know, there was a garage collapse in Lower Manhattan several years ago. They updated New York City garage rules. So we are doing work that is part of that. Like this is every crack that's larger than a quarter needs to be documented and remediated in some capacity. So we're going through that as well as the fire suppression system. It does not include anything cosmetic. It does not include anything, frankly, nice. My windows will still leak, but if there's a fire, the sprinklers will definitely come on. Yeah. So this may unlock future endeavors. This is a extraordinary construction project. So we don't have the capacity right now to look at adding additional scope. And certainly aware of scope group, the concept that there are underutilized spaces is definitely something that we've talked about internally. I know that we've had conversations with our board about sort of some of the trying to figure out what the future of some of those spaces may be. But at that point, it's all conceptual, and our focus is trying to make sure we're able to successfully pull off this multi-year long project with as minimal disruption as possible.
Thank you. Okay, I know we do have some new business. I just want to oh, I'm sorry. Did you have a question?
I skipped over the public safety report.
Oh,
Chris, do you want to?
all right. Please. Everything is safe? Is that the report? That's no report.
Sure, quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've recently been experiencing many of the challenges seen in public spaces citywide. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Since then, we're now experiencing many of the quality of life problems that are experienced, citywide through this. Lost my space. Some of these problems include incidents involving emotionally disturbed persons, creating dangers to themselves and others, intimidating and harassing park patrons and staff, damage to park property, minor thefts and littering. In some cases, these incidents are substantially interfering with others' use of the park and enjoyment of the park. We don't have many encampments in the park and Hudson River Park as a result of us closing every night at 1 o'clock. And that's very fortunate for us. PEP officers routinely encounter homeless individuals, offer help and assistance in obtaining services. While assistance is mostly declined, the most common request for assistance they'll get is medical assistance. One example, PEP recently found an individual on the floor of a restroom suffering from an apparent overdose. As they were with him, he became non-responsive, no readable vital signs. PEP administered Narcan and was able to revive the person. EMS subsequently arrived, and the individual refused any further medical aid and just left the park on his own at that point. All of our PEP officers are trained in Narcan, and this is not the first time that they've used it. I think this is the third time that I recall off the top of my head. And it's really great.
How was your meeting?
Besides the homeless issue, we'd mentioned we had a lot of water safety issues, people entering the water and having to be rescued. Over the summer, PEP observed a number of people who were in the water or over the park railings and safely oversaw most of those people getting out of the water and back onto the piers or esplanade areas. Unfortunately, in July, 2 people took their own lives just south of Pier 40 in separate incidents. In both cases, emotionally disturbed individuals entered the water intentionally. In both cases, rescue attempts were made within minutes of them entering the water, including using the park's life rings, all to no avail. In one case, 2 Good Samaritans entered the river in an attempt to rescue the emotionally disturbed person, and they both had to be rescued by the fire department. Shortly after those 2 incidents, one of our Doe Fund employees reported a male over the railing at Pier 25. PEP officers responded, encountered an emotionally disturbed person who informed them that he was suicidal, wanted to commit suicide, but he was scared. The officers were able to build a rapport with him. One of them held his hand, and they were able to get him back over the rail and to the hospital help he needed. It was recently asked, is swimming prohibited in Hudson River Park? And swimming is prohibited except by permit or in designated areas, which currently we don't have any. It's a summonsable offense. It's a $50 or $75 summons, depending. But most of the people, if they get, they're swimming, they come out on their own, we're not giving them a summons. The others are emotionally disturbed and they're not getting a summons. So we don't issue, it's a very rare occasion that we'll issue a summons for that. That's it.
Agenda for, thank you. Our next meeting is November 19th. We have 2 items already scheduled for that meeting. And please note the proposed meeting dates for the meetings following November. And with that, I'm going to
She's on her phone. Are you ready to
I
discuss your new
will-
business?
Yes.
Thank you.
And I'm going to try to take inspiration from Robert. I know it's late and we'll try and go as quickly as possible. My name is Margot Jacks and I'm here as a member of the North Cove Sailing Club, which has been based at North Cove in Battery Park City for many years. And I'm sure you may or may not be familiar with it, but it's both a sailing club, a sailing school, and has provided community sailing opportunities in Battery Park City. With their resiliency construction, Battery Park City is closing North Cove completely, and they're considering removing, also we've discovered recently, the moorings and while staging barges in Pier 25. As we have looked at how to maybe save our sailing club and continue to serve the community in the southern part of Manhattan, we've been looking at the possibility of moving boats and staging out of Pier 25, which would mean actually adding the potential for adding moorings at Pier 25. And this is particularly interesting right now because with 79th Street closing and the Parks Department planning to close Dyckman Marina, it's really decimating all of the kind of small boat leisure sailing along the Hudson. It's a serious effect on Hudson River community sailing. And of course, our boats are just supposed to vanish. Nobody seems to have a plan for us, for the club. So we are here because we were meeting this morning. We've been talking about why Pier 25 is so important, how to mitigate any of the construction issues that the Battery Park City wants to stage there. It's not all signed off yet, but it seems to be, it shows up in some drawings and some other drawings it's not there. And to increase the mooring space, possibly move docks into Pier 25, which is therefore would be a refuge for our club, and increase again the activity at Pier 25 for the water facing and sailing community and continue activities there as the construction goes on to the south. So it's pretty much, we're here to let you know that that's what we're thinking. We'd like to work with Hudson River Park Trust on looking at the opportunity for us at Pier 25 to increase the boats there rather than have them crushed by Battery Park City activities. Sam, I don't know if this, like, also member colleague, Sam. What did I miss?
Hi, my name is Sam Han. I'm also a member of North Cove Sailing with Margot. So the North Cove Sailing, we provide community access. So we have free sailing for the community. We have children sailing over the summer programs. We have also the U.S. sailing certification courses for people to take. So people can go out and learn sailing and have access to the water, and they can also use that skill and take it out to Caribbeans or like, so we're not, it's a access for regular folks like us. We're not the big yacht clubs or mega yacht clubs or anything, but this is providing access for people in the city. And we have some folks that visit from other places and countries that we take out. They see the city in a different way. So it has been a great place for the city to have us go out and, but since with the closure, we just found this out recently. So we are looking to see if we can get help and work with Hudson River Trust and community board to have permanent or temporary location where we can operate in accordance with everyone's safety and satisfaction, that we can still provide access where we notice that a lot of access are getting closed. So.
Thank you. Any questions?
I mean, so you didn't get any notice at all, or you knew this was going to happen? I mean, did the trust know this was going to happen? Not that this is your decision, I totally understand it, that you didn't, but This is something that's absolutely new because it never came up with any battery park conversations in the past.
So there was a resiliency project that's going on, so they,
know they've come
yeah,
here multiple times.
right, and
That the program was gonna
no, we were never told, and
It's gonna be closed at the end because they're just gonna close Battery Park. They're gonna close the North Cove Marina rather than maintain. They'll be staging. Battery Park City has not been very, about exactly what their plans are. And as far as I know, they aren't finalized yet and there's still construction plans. Every sort of drawings with barges and they're closing. They are now saying that they are closing North Cove Marina. And then there, as they say, there are drawings with others.
Permanently closing or just?
No, for 5 years. I mean, this is a 5-year.
And you're asking for the trust to see if they can relocate you somewhere. Is that what I'm
Yeah.
hearing?
And as we looked around and talked to people, we've lit on, it looks to us like Pier 25 is the most accessible and likely place because there has been this kind of activity there in the past. So we don't want to like reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, so I just wanted to share on this. So we are also, I think, in a somewhat of a similar boat where we are still waiting for information from Battery Park City about what their impact to our mooring field at Pier 25 will be. I think that's something that they have come and discussed, and you guys asked about when they were here a meeting ago, 2 meetings ago.
Well, the first time they came, they didn't know there was a marina there.
Yeah. So we but and last time they were here, we collectively all spoke about it together. Again, they don't yet know some of their means and methods on how they are doing all of their construction. They don't quite have final plans on even what they are trying to build, never mind exactly how they're going to build it and how long it's going to take and what those needs are. So we do know, however, from the DEAS and the EIS of this project that our mooring field will be affected in some way. The extent to which I cannot say, and I can't say right now, and there is nothing beyond that. Then this is all information that Battery Park City has. We're certainly open to a conversation about whether or not we can be supportive in this. I just want to set some expectations on this. I do know that some of the at the pinch point between Hudson River Park and Battery Park City, so right by Stye there in that tight corner, that they are looking to move some of their construction staging, say, off of that tiny little esplanade and that tiny little path that will be, frankly, likely much worse than even this small gateway path that we have here in a much more complicated area, onto barges. But that sort of work all impacts the rest of the marina. We do also have a tenant in that space at the moment who operates it. We have Crew, which is the operator of that marina, which has a permit and agreement that extends for it. It's a conversation we're definitely open to having. I think it is a question, frankly, in the first instance for Battery Park City about their impacts collectively, because what they are impacting you there, they are doing the same thing here in on where you were looking to go. So it's not a question that we can answer.
Battery Park City is pretty complicated, and so we just wanted to make sure that we're getting this under tape spell because the season ends fairly shortly, and we're working both ends across the middle because we have to figure out how to save the boats and find a place to put them and maintain some kind of program. I mean, part of this is because we all love sailing, we all love water access, and we all want to see it continue in the city along Hudson, along the Hudson. And Hudson River community is getting squeezed, and you don't want them to be the only people out there. It's the more the merrier.
I was part of the meeting this morning, and I wanted to add a little more information, more for the context and the possible impact on Hudson River Park. Margot said the 79th Street Boat Basin is still closed for construction, and that's run by the City Parks Department. They are closing the marina at Dykeman Street in Inwood before that reopens. So 2 marinas in Upper Manhattan are closing. North Cove is closing. There's potentially only going to be half of the Pier 25 marina available, depending when they move those barges in. And so everything's going to get squeezed. And the other thing is, because it didn't get mentioned, there is a sailing school at Pier 25 already. It's not a past operation, it's current. We partner with them. There've been a couple of private sailing clubs too. Sail NYC and there was, yes. The main question is if there's space. And Atlantic Yachting, which runs the sailing school at Pier 25, was part of the meeting this morning as well. They're willing to participate in, the more the merrier, trying to help find space as long as their operation doesn't suffer. They have 6 sailboats at Pier 25 now. So I think, I know this is that Tammy, who couldn't be here tonight, is really passionate about helping North Cove Sailing School or Sailing Club find a location, and was eager to have some kind of letter come from the advisory council. And I don't know if you've heard enough. I think there maybe needs to be some more discussion. Maybe there's questions. I see Tom's hand is up, and I'll give this back to Susan.
Okay, Tom, you have your hand up. Question.
Yes, I was just wondering, you talk about the community benefits and such. Is this a nonprofit organization that's a community group? Or is it a sailing club and private, privately financed kind of thing? Is it a business or is it a nonprofit?
At the moment, it's a business. It's
Okay.
financed, I believe, by IG.
So, so the Battery Park City, the Brookville Marina, is kind of like operated by the Brookfield, and Brookfield hired IGY to operate the marina. But in the charter of Battery Park City Authority, they need to have a community sailing available for the downtown. So they created the North Cove Sailing to operate the sailing club down there.
So the sailing club is
Okay,
nonprofit
yeah.
for
We're
community
gonna have to
use.
wrap this
Okay.
up because
Sure.
there, and
Thanks.
apparently there's simply, we need more information. It would be premature to issue a letter when we don't know what the status is of Pier 25. So, okay, is there any new business, any more new business? Otherwise, I will take a motion to adjourn. I guess you folks want to stay. Okay, thank you all very much and see you in November.
Thank you, Madam Chair.